ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावदितमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Dear students, today we are going to discuss about injuries of ankle joint. And before we start the discussion on the injuries of ankle joint, let us revise briefly the anatomy of the ankle joint. As you can see in this particular diagram, ankle joint is a complex joint made up of distal end of tibia, fibula and the talus. The tibiofibular joint functions as a uniplanar hinge joint and in which about 25 degrees of dorsiflexion and 35 degrees of plantar flexion takes place. It is fully congruous in all positions. This stability is provided by the configuration of the ankle mortise, as you can see in the first picture, and the ligaments which are arranged in the following three groups. If you look medially, the medial collateral ligament consists of the deltoid ligament with a superficial and deep part. Anterior and posterior talofibular ligament and calcaneofibular ligament form the lateral collateral ligament as shown in this particular diagram. The anterior tibiofibular ligament, the posterior tibiofibular ligament, the inferior transverse ligament and the interosseous ligament, it forms the syndesmotic ligaments. It is interesting to note that the ankle is surrounded on all sides by the following structures. Anteriorly, the tendon of tibialis anterior, then extensor hallucis longus, then tibialis vessels and nerves, tendon of extensor digitorum longus, in that particular order from medial to lateral aspect. These structures are held in position by superior and inferior retinaculi. Posteromedially, the tendons of tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, posterior tibial vessels and nerves, tendons of flexor hallucis longus pass in that order from anterior to posterior, below and behind the medial malleolus. Flexor retinaculi holds them in position. As you can see, the flexor retinaculi here, this is what is the flexor retinaculi. Posterolateral, peroneus longus and brevis held in position by superior and inferior peroneal retinaculum. Superior and inferior peroneal retinaculum, these are the two tendons. Posteriorly, it is the tendo achilis and plantaris. Now, these tendons are covered by the synovial sheath. It is the fulcrum at which the leg transmits the body weight to the foot. So, thus the ankle joint acts as a fulcrum. Its peculiarity lies in the fact that it has no muscular covering on any of its sides. Now, coming to the injuries of the ankle, Pott described the ankle injuries for the first time in 1768. More commonly, it is seen in the elderly women, and about 2/3 are isolated malleolar fractures. About 1/4 are bimalleolar fractures. Trimalleolar fracture is seen only in 7% of the cases. and open fractures are there in 2% of the cases. If we look at the mechanism leading to the injuries of the ankle are usually injured due to low rotational forces, due to mainly the twisting injury while walking, running, sports, athletes, etc. are the most common mode of ankle injuries. The second mechanism is fall from a height. Ankle injuries are indirect injuries here, brought about by displacing talus. The injuries are classified after the mechanism causing them, and hence it is of paramount importance to understand the movement of the ankle to comprehend the classification. What complicates the issue is the practice of using more than one term to describe the same motion. Now, there are 6 movements of the ankle and the hind foot. The first one, the plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. They are the down and up movement of the foot. You can see here in this particular diagram, when the foot goes up, we call it as dorsiflexion. When foot goes down, we call it as plantar flexion. Then movement causing toes to point inwards, as shown in the first picture, is called the internal rotation or the medial rotation. And movement causing toes to point outward is called either the lateral rotation or the external rotation, as shown in this particular diagram. Supination is the movement which raises the medial aspect of the foot and the heel off the ground. Look at the second diagram that shows the supination. And in pronation, the motion is to bring the lateral aspect of the foot and the heel off the ground. In adduction, the hind foot is moved towards the midline, and in abduction, it is moved laterally. Pure vertical loading position, as in landing, jumping, falling etc., will cause pylon fractures by driving the talus into the tibia. Now, Log has said, he has described 4 major types. The mechanism of injury could be the adduction force, abduction force, or the external rotation force. The foot could be in supination or pronation. The first word in Log-Haas's classification refers to the position of the foot at the time of injury, and the second to the direction of injuring force. So the first one he described is the supination adduction type of injury. That is, the foot was in supination and the force was the adduction force. So in that, in stage 1, the transverse fracture of the lateral malleus or a tear of lateral collateral ligament is seen, as shown in the first picture. In stage 2, there will be stage 1 plus, as the adduction force continues, it could lead to a fracture of a medial malleus, usually which runs superiorly oblique. The second variety he has described is supination eversion. That is, in stage 1, rupture of anterior inferior tibiofibular ligament occur, as shown by the red arrow in this particular first picture. Later in stage 2, apart from stage 1, the spiral oblique fracture of the lateral malleus occurs, again shown by the red arrow in the second stage picture. In stage 3, the stage 2 plus, there will be an additional posterior leaf fracture of tibia, what we call as a posterior malleolar fracture. At stage 4, the stage 3 plus, by this time, now the medial structures have become tight, so it will result into fracture of a medial malleus, which will be a transverse plucking type of fracture, or it could be a tear of deltoid ligament. The third group he has described is the pronation abduction. In stage 1, because of the pronation, already the medial structures are tight, so as soon as the abduction occurs, the fracture of medial malleus or tear of deltoid ligament occurs. Here, as you can notice, the medial malleus is fractured transversely as if it has been plugged. The stage 2, the stage 1 plus rupture of antero-inferior tibiofibular ligament. As the abduction continues, the talus pushes on the lateral malleus, resulting into injury to the antero-inferior tibiofibular ligament and the posterior-inferior tibiofibular ligament with the fracture posteriorly of the tibia. In stage 3, as the abduction and external rotation force continues, the oblique supramalleolar fracture of the fibula is added to the stage 4 injuries, stage 2 injuries. Then the fourth type he has described was the pronation and external rotation injury. Again, in this case, stage 1, because of the external rotation, the fracture of the medial malleus or tear of deltoid ligament occurs at the stage 1. Of course, it is a plucking type of injury, that is a transverse low fracture of the medial malleus. Stage 2, stage 1 plus tear of antero-inferior tibiofibular ligament and the interosseous ligament. Stage 3, stage 2 plus tear of interosseous membrane and a spiral fracture of the fibula. And stage 4, stage 3 plus fracture of the posterior lip of tibia due to the ligamentous avulsion by the posterior inferior and the inferior transverse tibiofibular ligament. About 75% of the cases, they fall into the first two groups. That is, either the supination adduction type or supination eversion type or a supination external rotation type. Dennis and Weber has proposed another very practical classification. This is the other classification proposed by the ankle injuries, and it is based on the level of fibular fractures. While the Log-Hassen system is based on experimentally verified injury mechanism like adduction and abduction etc. Here, AO has accepted Weber's classification, and they have described type A, the infrasyndesmotic fracture, that is fracture of fibula occurring below the syndesmosis. It is further subdivided into three subtypes. What are those subtypes? Type A1, there is an isolated fracture of the lateral malleus, infrasyndesmotic. Type A2 with the medial malleolar fractures. Type A3 with the posteromedial fractures. Very simple to remember. Type B, the transsyndesmotic, that is the fracture of the fibula occurring at the transsyndesmosis level. Again, it is further subdivided into three subtypes. Type B1, it is isolated fracture. Type B2 with the medial lesion, malleolar or the ligamentous injury, and type B3 with the medial lesion and posterolateral tibial fractures. Type C is a suprasyndesmotic lesion, fracture of fibula above the syndesmosis, and it is further subdivided into three subtypes. Type C1, simple diaphyseal fracture of fibula. C2, complex diaphyseal fracture of fibula, and C3, proximal fracture of the fibula. Clinically, the patient usually gives a history of inversion injury. As you can see here, a person is walking on the ground and suddenly the ankle gets twisted. Following which, there is a pain, swelling, deformity of the ankle. Now the movements are decreased, Draver's test, inversion, eversion stress test may be positive for pain. Note the color and condition of the skin. Examine the entire leg. As we have seen that in C3 type of fracture, there could be proximal fibular fractures. Investigation wise, plain X-rays, ankle series, AP, mortise and lateral views are advised. CT scan, MRI and arthroscopic evaluation are of course extremely helpful. Various radiological parameters in the normal ankle which we need to know is a talocrural angle. It is 83 degree plus minus 4 degree. As you can see in the first picture, the talocrural angle. To calculate, you need to draw two lines, the orange line and the blue line connecting tip of both medial malleoli, orange line passing at the distal articular surface of the tibia, and the angle they form with the vertical to the orange line, that is what is talocrural angle. The medial clear space, as you can see there by the two green arrows in the second picture, that is about the second picture in the near the medial malleoli and thallus, that is around 4 mm. And then the tibiofibular clear space, again it is shown in the second picture by the two green arrows or the syndesmosis, that must be less than 6 mm. Subchondral bone, it lies between the distal tibia and medial surface of the lateral malleolus, should be continuous. Means this should be continuous. If it is not continuous, it means there is a distraction or the rupture of syndesmotic joint, and you need to fix the inferior syndesmosis. Now all these four parameters are best studied in mortise view. Now look at, this is the plane AP view, this is the plane AP view, and this is the mortise view. Mortise view is taken with the foot rotated 15 degrees internally. Now the treatment goals, the first goal on the treatment is anatomically positioning of the talus beneath the tibia. Second goal is to obtain a joint line that is parallel to the ground. The third goal is the smooth articular surface. Now if these three things are not achieved, post-traumatic osteoarthritis is the result. Now as far as the stable injuries are concerned, by stable I mean the fracture is undisplaced. So no reduction is required. Immobilization with only plaster splint till the swelling decreases, and then a below knee plaster cast is applied with foot in neutral position. Now for the unstable injuries where there is a displacement at the fracture site, it requires reduction and immobilization in the plaster cast. The commonly encountered unstable injuries are: 1. The fracture due to the external rotation. This is more common and can be managed by both conservative as well as operative methods. Conservative methods, this consists of reversal of injury forces by close reduction and below knee plaster cast application. Now for this particular purpose, you need to understand the Log-Hassens classification, so that you can use the reversal of the mechanism to achieve the reduction of the fracture. A walking cast is applied after a period of 1 month. Surgical methods, in this both the malleoli are fixed. Now usually first the lateral malleoli is fixed because that restores the length of the fibula and provides the stability to the ankle mortise. And it may be fixed either using the pins or the screws or the plate, and later the medial malleolar fracture is fixed with either a single screw or a plate, whatever, as per depending upon the situation there. In this particular X-ray, the lateral malleolus is being fixed using one single screw. the malar screw, and the medial malar fracture, being a vertical type of fracture, was treated with a buttress plate. Below knee splint is given initially and later a cast is applied. The fracture primarily due to the abduction. Now look at this. These are less common than the fractures due to the external rotation. Nevertheless, the principle of the treatment remains the same. The adduction force is required to bring about the close reduction, and if the close reduction fails, open reduction is preferred. During the open reduction, both the malleoli are fixed. Fractures primarily due to the adduction, unlike external rotation and abduction, adduction violence is more frequently an isolated event. Wedging of the small comminuted fragment into the fracture line often prevents the close reduction in adduction type of injuries, so that the open reduction and internal fixation is required more frequently. Medial malleolus is approached first. Now here remember, the adduction type we are approaching the medial malleolus first, since it is more unstable and the fracture is fixed with the two screws as shown in this particular diagram. One at right angle to the tibial cortex, another at right angles to the fracture line. The lateral fibular fracture is stabilized either with the plate screws or the rush nail depending upon the combination. Here the rush nail has been used. Then fracture resulting from primarily the vertical compression. Now this may be isolated or associated with other forces described above. The anterior and posterior tibial plafond margins are fractured. Two types are described. One, posterior marginal fracture. For the undisplaced fractures, below knee cast is sufficient. For more than 25% of the articular surface involvement, usually open reduction and internal fixation with two screws is preferred. As far as the anterior marginal fractures are concerned, the tibial plafond injuries, it may include a crush of the anterior lip, or it may include a major fragment. If crushed, calcaneal traction is given, and if there is a large fragment, open reduction and internal fixation is required. Now in nutshell, a fixation technique for the medial malar fracture, the large fragment fracture, single lag screw or two is required. For small fractures, as you can see in this second picture, combination of 4 mm lag screws and a K-wire or a tension band wiring technique can be utilized. Then low transverse fracture, tension band wiring or vertical countersunk 4 mm screw can be utilized. The fixation technique for the lateral malar fractures, for the fibular fracture, 1/3 semitubular 3.5 mm plate and the screws or multiple 3.5 mm lag screws can be used. Long oblique fractures, 2 lag screws can be used as shown in this particular picture. Low transverse fracture, single 4.5 mm malar screw can be utilized. Both malleoli, tension band wiring for the lateral malleolus and 4 mm lag screw for the medial malleolus or vice versa can be utilized. You can see in this particular X-ray, the medial malleolus is fixed using the tension band technique and lateral malleolus is fixed using a semitubular plate. Coming to the complications of ankle fractures. Complications of the ankle fractures include post-traumatic arthritis, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, neurovascular injury, injury to the posterior tibial vessels and nerve particularly, and non-union due to the soft tissue interposition and malunion. Now the first X-ray shows how it was malunited, later reoperated by doing osteotomy and open reduction and internal fixation. And before we close, let us have a little discussion on trimalleolar fracture, that is also called as cotton fracture. Now this is a difficult injury complex to treat. The salient features about these fractures are: it is mainly due to the abduction and external rotation injury. There is a fracture of medial, lateral and posterior malleolus. For the plain X-ray, 50-degree external rotation view is preferred. It is more often requires open reduction and internal fixation. If the posterior malleolar fragment is less than 25% of the articular surface, then usually the reduction is achieved automatically when the fibular fracture is fixed. However, if it is more than 25 to 30% of the articular surface, then it needs to be reduced and fixed internally. The results of the fixation are usually inferior to that of bimalleolar fixation. With this, I conclude the discussion on the ankle injuries here. Thank you. Thank you very much for the patient listening. Please do like, share and subscribe my channel. Help me help maximum number of medical students to learn orthopedics. Thank you once again. Thank you all.